Kwok, you're Chief Digital Officer here at adthera. I mean, tell me a bit about your background. How did you end up here?
Yeah, so I spent 20 odd years within the cell and gene therapy space, working for lots of different organizations, from the NHS to big pharma to research technology organizations, really supporting the growth of the space from many different angles. And I think over the years, from moving in a lab environment, hands-on making these products, to more of a supportive role looking at digital solutions and systems to support the space, it's given me a real kind of unique perspective to see what works and what doesn't, and how to support just the communication between vendors and clients. And so that led me to a point where even forming a startup company to develop specific software to capture the manufacturing data, because that was identified as one of the key challenges in the future. We're making these products one patient at a time, a white glove service. We are generating batch records. So this is a documentation around the manufacturing of hundreds of patients, hundreds of pages for each patient. And so just the managing that flow and capturing of the data, and then the regulatory review and release of that was identified as a major problem. Yeah. And so seeing that as a problem, knowing and interacting with the vendors who are offering services in that space, we saw that there was a gap there. So alongside one of the directors of the facility that I started my career in, we formed a company to make software that's actually fit for purpose for what we're doing here. And you might say, oh, but why are there not other suppliers within the space that make this type of software? There are, but those pieces of software have been designed around different processes that are more fixed. What we need in cell therapy at the stage of the industry is platforms that are more flexible, that can be adjusted as the kind of end users learn about their processes. That was my journey up until that point. And then in the beginning of this year, I joined adthera. And my role here is to use that experience from all of those past roles to help adthera develop their digital infrastructure to support our clients, from addressing the challenges of which platforms do we use, how do we get data from those platforms, how do we help scale the manufacturing in a control and compliant manner.
And adthera describes itself as a digital-first CDMO in cell and gene therapy. What does digital first mean in this context then? I mean, what's the sort of distinction between how adthera approaches the world of cell and gene versus some others?
So that's driven through the experiences of the team members, right? And so we've seen what works and what doesn't, and where are the key pain points along that manufacturing supply chain. So we're deploying technology that adds value and addresses a lot of those points. So for example, we've deployed headsets so we can record all of the activity during the manufacturing. And that helps us learn faster, gain insights, but it also helps address when the manufacturing process of patients occurs, there's variability from one patient material to the other. And so we're going to have these deviations. Yeah. And it's about how do we manage those deviations in the most efficient manner. So what happens in a paper batch record solution is the operator writes down and tries to describe in the best way possible what's gone wrong. And then that deviation investigation will involve speaking to lots of different stakeholders, the quality team, the operations team, to understand what went wrong and then make an informed decision. Now, if we have headsets and we record all the activity we have, that can be much more streamlined and much more efficient. So the quality individuals can actually get involved at the point when the issue occurred, because they've got integration to Teams. So they can have a video call. The video call content is recorded and captured within the batch record. When it comes for review of that batch record, the quality team know exactly what decisions were made at the time of intervention, what actually happened, because they can visually see it through recording. And so then that streamlines that process. We're not going to be able to get rid of deviations because that's the nature of patient variability of products. What we have to do is deploy technology to make it much more efficient and work that through.
That's a really good example of innovation, not just in the science and the output of this organization, but actually in how the organization operates, how you enable your team, your staff to work very differently. I mean, I think that's probably somewhere at something in the DNA of the business.
Absolutely. Yeah. And another key area is how do we help the industry scale out manufacturing? And we were just talking about one device per patient product. And what we're trying to do is manufacture these patient products in parallel within a controlled environment. So how do we do that?
Yeah.
We have to look at how do we deploy technologies that might be able to track and trace the movements of the patient material and the operators all within the same space, provide a digital trace that can, again, be embedded in the batch record. It gives the quality team the confidence that we know, we being the operational team, know exactly what's going on in each step and each device for each patient. And again, then we can streamline that process and the process gets much more efficient.
Yeah.
It slows down when there are concerns raised in terms of reassurance of what's going on. So if we can provide that reassurance through cleverly deploying technology at different points along that supply chain, we can help them move that forward.
Yeah. And tell me a bit more about the life of a chief digital officer, especially in a business like this, because adthera is an early stage company that's going through kind of big growth, big scale up. So a lot of your role, of course, is building out the organization with your colleagues. But I guess you also play a role, Kwok, as a figurehead for digital leadership in the sector, because cell and gene therapy is still kind of emerging as a part of the life sciences. So just maybe give me a bit of an idea about that.
Yeah, I think one of the key responsibilities is really maintain those relationships with the different stakeholders from suppliers and from the clients, right? It's about being able to be that conduit in terms of what are the needs of the clients and their processes, and being able to express that to the vendors who are trying to understand and build solutions that are fit for purpose. But sometimes there's some miscommunication between the two parties. Yeah. And that's where the challenges occur when you come to implementation. That's the biggest challenge for implementing technology. You have to really know what you implementing this technology for, and then be able to define testable use cases to ensure that the solution that is found actually meets the needs of what you needed to do. And so having been on both sides of the fence in terms of a client of a solution and a supplier providing the solution, I think I'm best placed to kind of help nurture that process. Yeah.
And do you see many versions of you out in the sector? I mean, my sense, as you know, we work across the life sciences, and that does include biotech, but also includes tech bio and the application of increasingly digital or AI-based tools to drug discovery, drug development. You know, I think the talent is kind of emerging, but I do still wonder whether we have enough people at senior leadership and, you know, moving and shaping like you are, that really get that intersection of digital and tech and wet science, and actually how it all needs to come together, because cell and gene therapy is a manifestation of exactly that, isn't it?
No, I think that will take time, because it's that uniqueness of having lived and breathed the manufacturing process and then going in to try to find tools to support that is the secret to that, right? It's also other members of our team who've come from manufacturing have gone into quality. Now they can see the challenges of what we're trying to achieve within the operations and manufacturing side while being compliant and while following the regulations, rather than just purely coming from the quality and regulation perspective and not thinking about how do we operationally scale what we need to be doing, right? So it's a uniqueness in terms of applying those different expertise, but with that experience-led backing in terms of how to deliver that service.
Yeah. Okay. And what does Nirvana look like? You know, digital keeps, with the momentum it's got, stuff keeps kind of transforming in the sector. Everything is kind of really pushing hard in that direction. So when you think 10 years, 15 years into the future, what
10, 15 years in the future, we will be, as an industry, treating 3 or 4 lots more patients. We're going from tens or hundreds of patients today to hundreds of thousands of patients. Some of the key disciplines, things that we can't change for autologous therapies, it's always going to be per patient. It's one by one. Yeah. We can't do what has been done in biologics and vaccine manufacturing, where you learn about your process, get skilled at your process, and you can move to larger and larger vats to manufacture your product and make it in 20,000 liters. Yeah. This is going to be one at a time. Yeah. but how can we be super efficient in terms of supporting those supply chains? That's where we're going to need to be. And so we're looking at all these different technologies that are being introduced into the space to help support that process. Yeah. So it's going to be exciting times in the next couple of years to see how do we support the industry get from that big of a change. It's going to be that exponential growth in terms of patients moving through the supply chain.
So scaling up is always going to be a challenge for this space, but actually, from what you're saying, technology, digital kind of is the solution, and leaders like you are the ones that hold the key to this.
I think so. Yeah. I think so, yeah. Because it's about maintaining control, as we talked about earlier, maintaining control of a manufacturing process, staying compliant. We're only going to be able to scale as fast as we are staying in compliance. And anything that we can do in terms of introducing technologies and systems to support that is what we need to be doing. Yeah.
Kwok, I've got to ask you about AI. I mean, AI is kind of used in every sentence now when we talk about innovation in the life sciences and pretty much everything else. I mean, what does AI mean to you? When I just say AI and you think about practical applications today or tomorrow in terms of your world?
So in terms of our world, in the cell and gene therapy space, we're not ready for it yet. We're at the stage where we're still trying to collect the data. As I mentioned before, we're going from paper batch records to the first type of solutions. I think in the future...
And that's a fundamental first step.
Yes. I think when we can capture high quality data across that supply chain in a single source, then we have the opportunity in the future to learn from that aggregated data set. What I think is possible in the future, once we have a bigger data set, is potentially some sort of support. I don't know what we call it AI support, but maybe a co-pilot of some sort. There are digital supply chain co-pilots that can give you insights from your data set. Now, if you're asking, is that truly AI? That's probably not. That's helping you access information and insights much more efficiently. But that still adds value. That still adds to the support, right? If you're trying to manage the supply chain and you want to identify potential bottlenecks based on previous history from your data set, I think that kind of thing in a co-pilot type solution could be definitely a benefit.